Good afternoon, it's Ash of Esheric Meditation. I am back on TikTok Live to read Good Citizens, Creating an Enlightened Society by Thich, Nhat, Hanh. After I'm done reading part 3 of this book on TikTok Live, I'll be uploading it to YouTube. So thank you so much if you're joining me already. It's been over a week since I've been reading live. You'll remember I've got these two titles on YouTube already, No Mud, No Lotus, The Art of Transforming Suffering, and then Calming the Fearful Mind, as in response to terrorism, all by the same author, Thich Nhat Hanh. You can call him your friend Ty, as his friends call him. But we're going to jump right back into part 3, The First Noble Truth, The Role of Suffering. So this will be a bit of a longer read. I'll probably be here for about half hour, 45 minutes, I think, if my pacing is the same. So thank you, good morning or afternoon, and thank you so much for joining. The first noble truth is the truth of ill-being. There is suffering in this world. Ill-being is translated from the Sanskrit word dukkha. How did the Buddha discover this truth? When he looked around him and he saw poverty, disease, old age, and death. You know what? Hey, Reg, I feel like I've already read this part. I might have to pause this live and come back because I feel like I've already read this one because it started the exact same as part 2. I thought I feel like we have already read through that word. No one's watching me anyway, so that's okay. Non-duality. Maybe that was in the other book we've already spoken about, dukkha. And then I can just restart and re-edit. I'll just restart right now and edit. All right, hello. My name is Ash of Esheric Meditation, and welcome back to I can't do this today, I'm brain dead. We'll get it. It's just a simple edit. It's just the beginning. I have to clip out and we'll do it. We'll redo the whole thing. Oh, I have to redo that even. Nice. Okay, hold on. Hello. It's Ash of Esheric Meditation, and I'm back on TikTok Live to read Good Citizens, Creating an Enlightened Society by Thich Nhat Hanh. As you'll recall, a few weeks ago, I've got parts 1 and 2 on TikTok, on YouTube already, and we've got these two titles recorded already as well. No Mud, No Lotus, The Art of Transforming Suffering and Calming the Fearful Mind, as in response to terrorism. All of these titles are by our same friend Ty. Okay, we're gonna jump in to part 3. I thought I've recorded this part already, but I did not. So we're starting again. The first noble truth, the role of suffering. The first noble truth is the truth of ill-being. There is suffering in this world. Ill-being is translated from the Sanskrit word dukkha. How did the Buddha discover this truth? When he looked around him, he saw poverty, disease, old age, and death. We all see these things in the course of our lives. Suffering is a reality. If we don't accept this truth, we can't progress further. There is suffering inside us and around us. Instead of trying to escape into metaphysical questions such as who created the world and what is the purpose of life, the Buddha began with the truth he saw around him. This is the first ethical guideline. We have to observe deeply what is happening around us before we can understand its causes and hope to transform it. Instead of sending our minds farther away, we can notice what we can see in the present moment, and we can call it by its true name. This is a concrete action, not a theoretical philosophy. We can look deeply and see where there is suffering. If we can truly be aware of the suffering and call it by its true name, it is very helpful. Then we will know exactly what kind of medicine, what kind of healing we need in order to deal with our suffering and bring about sukha, well-being. Thank you for the likes, guys. Revealing the truth about dukkha will bring about the truth of the cessation of dukkha. Spelled D-U-K-K-H-A. All is not suffering. There are those who say that everything is suffering. This is not true. This is an exaggeration of what the Buddha said. The Buddha said that there is suffering, but he didn't say that's all there is. There are causes that bring suffering about, and it's possible to arrive at the state of the absence of these causes. Of course, we shouldn't dream that one day we'll have 100% happiness and not a single drop of suffering. There is always something, but we can handle suffering and happiness in an artful way. We can't remove all the suffering. It's a mistake to think that we can only be happy if we remove all the suffering. There are a number of things we're unhappy about, but there are also a lot of things that bring us joy. So waking up this morning, sitting quietly and peacefully with a friend, this is happiness. But it doesn't mean that everybody is totally empty of suffering. Each one of us has some amount of suffering, but we handle it with beauty. Suffering is present now, but happiness is also present now. If we say that life is only suffering, it's not correct. But if we say that life is only happiness, it's also not correct. There are both, and they each play their role. If we never knew what hunger was, we could never enjoy having something to eat. We can eat properly and happily when we're all hungry. But if we feel that we already have enough in our stomachs, we won't feel so happy when we eat. We can't wait to be happy until we remove 100% of suffering. That moment will never exist. Siddhartha's story. There are many stories of Prince Siddhartha, the man who became the Buddha. A lot of these stories began by saying Siddhartha was a protected prince who went for a walk one day outside the palace and saw illness, old age, and death for the first time. The realization of these sufferings led him to such sadness and despair that he wanted to become a monk to help people find a way out of suffering. That version of the story is too naive for me. Siddhartha was a bright and intelligent young man. It can't be true that he never saw anyone who was sick, and it's unlikely that in his 29 years he had never seen anyone die. His father was a king, but a king really doesn't have so much power as we might think. There might be government ministries who are corrupt to prevent difficulties from being resolved. So even if you're thinking the king, you can't resolve all the sufferings of your people. There are so many people who are poor or who are hungry. Many situations are complicated. Siddhartha could see that even if you're the king, you can't resolve all the difficulties and bring happiness to everyone. So he made a determination to find a real path that could bring happiness to everyone. That is the reason he searched for a way. For me, this is closer to reality than saying that a 29-year-old man, very intelligent and bright, good at martial arts, well-versed in literature, that many other things, would never have seen anyone sick or dying. Buddhist teachers have traditionally described suffering as birth, old age, sickness, death, being separated from those we love, and having to be with those we hate. All of these things can cause suffering, but they are not the only sources of suffering. Despair is a form of suffering, worry is a form of suffering, and depression is a form of suffering. Often without even being aware of it, you build up a number of difficulties in your body and your mind. Stress, tension, and fear can accumulate in our bodies and minds and cause us to suffer. Violence is also a form of suffering. Violence is an energy that wants to destroy, to punish the other person because the other person dared to make you suffer. That irritation in you truly exists. The desire to destroy or to punish is there in everyone. It exists in our society and in each of us. Terrorism is this desire in the extreme. At the basis of terrorism, there is wrong perception, violence, anxiety, and restlessness. You might recall with that phrase the discussions we had in the book, Calming the Fearful Mind, is in response to terrorism. All of these feelings exist together in one person. If you have been watering these seeds of violence and anxiety, it only takes a small amount of wrong perception about the other person or group, and you're ready to blow yourself up and kill the other people. Just before the invasion of Iraq in 2003, I gave a lecture at an interreligious peace gathering in France. I said, "You are normal adults and children living in the city. Imagine you know that in perhaps 24 hours, bombs could be dropping on you and your city could be under attack. You know there are warships blockading your coastline. You would be living in constant fear. Even though there's no bombardment yet, those who are living in these cities already feel terrified. Before a single bombing has dropped, the 1 or 2 million people in the city already feel the threat of bombardment. That is a kind of terrorism. No one who goes to war is innocent in creating terror. Violence and anger exist in each other. Violence and anger exist in each of us, and they radiate outward. If we have more of the energy of violence, we suffer more. If we have less, we suffer less. The violence, stress, and anxiety in us don't just cause suffering for ourselves, but also for our loved ones and those around us. Our anger and violence can ripple out and even cause suffering to strangers. We have many sufferings, and it is important to call them by their true names so that we can acknowledge our suffering and see its real causes. The global suffering of our time. There are many examples of global suffering. The destruction of the environment for generations to come is a disease of our time. Terrorism is also a sickness of our time. There are violence and anger within us, and anger can manifest as terrorism. An act of terrorism is an act of violence, but it is also an act of despair. Religious war is also a form of global suffering. Fanaticism, discrimination, division, violence, and economic crisis are all causing global suffering. Hunger, ill health, and poverty around the world are causing so much suffering. The destruction of human life and the ecosystem, and the many social injustices all cause great suffering on a global scale. Suppose we ask politicians to talk to us about the situation in terms of the first noble truth. She or he might mention unemployment, crime, or health crisis. When we speak about ill-being, however, we want to go deeper. The politician might only be talking about the symptoms of suffering, not the roots. Ethical Buddhism goes deeper. It is very personal and very specific. We want to talk about the many ways we can make ethical choices in each moment. This is why we begin with personal suffering and how it manifests as tension and pain in the body and mind. This is something right in front of us at this very moment. We need to abolish poverty and social injustice and to deal with the problems of global warming and economic recession. But we need to begin with the painful feelings we carry inside us. We have to deal with these things first. If they're not dealt with, we may inadvertently cause more suffering when we're trying to relieve it. The Buddha didn't begin his first teaching with the suffering of social injustice, poverty, and hunger, although he cared very much about these things. He began with the lack of peace within our own bodies and minds. We want to deal with the suffering realistically, and that at the roots. Our suffering is connected. We want to call each suffering by its true name. Our sufferings don't exist separately. Each is interlinked and interdependent with the others. For instance, the violence in an unhappy family can be linked to the stress of each person. Each parent is too stressed. They have no peace, no calm. Just one word that irritates the other can begin an escalation. So the suffering and the quarreling in a family doesn't begin with unkindness. They begin with the person's pain and stress. That stress is then watered by the stress of the other family members, and irritation and violence grows. So there is an interconnection and interdependence of things. The suffering of one family is not only inside the family, but is linked with many other things. What is suffering made of? People always ask, why should we call suffering noble? Is there anything noble in suffering? The answer is that when we look into it deeply, we see the suffering is made only of non-suffering elements. The Buddha did not say that everything is suffering. That would not be accurate. He only said that there is suffering in us. The implication of this truth isn't that we should give up and die. Rather, the Buddha wanted us to acknowledge and share our difficulties. All of us suffer deeply, and many of us walk around with a constant sense of ill-being. Dukkha is often spoken of in terms of birth and death, old age, sickness, and so on. But birth and death are part of life, and because we accept life, we have to accept birth and death. So they're not exactly ill-being. Whether or not something makes us suffer often depends on how we look at it. Our suffering is made up of non-suffering elements. Suffering is made of non-suffering elements. There's great joy in us, even in those things that contain suffering. For example, the Buddha saw that old age contains suffering. But I'm old and I'm so happy. I have found that old age is something very delicious. When we get old, we don't have all the excitement and stress that a young person might have. We have more maturity, and we have learned from years of unskillful experience to be more skillful. So old age is wonderful. When you are a young person, you are like a young creek, and you meet many rocks, many obstacles, and difficulties along your way. You hurry to get past these obstacles and get to the ocean. But as the creek moves down through the fields, it might become larger and calmer, and it can enjoy the reflection of the sky. It's wonderful. You will arrive at the sea anyway, so enjoy your journey. Enjoy the sunshine, the sunset, the moon, the birds, the trees, and the many beauties along the way. Taste every moment of your daily life. Old age can be very enjoyable. We also say that illness is suffering. But disease may strengthen your immune system, helping you cope with later infections. When a person is ill a lot as a child, sometimes they become a very strong teenager. Also, being ill is often the only way we take time to rest. When you are sick and you cannot go out, you have time to look deeply and spend some time with yourself. This may be one of the only times when you really lie down and spend some time coming home to yourself. Even death is not exactly suffering. Death is also part of life. It's not the enemy. We know that many cells of our bodies are dying at every moment so that the new cells can be born. So death takes place all the time. Without death, birth isn't possible. Imagine there were no death. There would only be very old people walking around all over the planet and no room for babies to be born. So we can work toward accepting death without fear. Death is something natural. Furthermore, if we look deeply, we can see that we are not really dying. We will continue in other forms. Changing from one form to another may be something joyful. Continuation. Suppose you are a cloud. You can use this as an image for meditation. You are made of tiny crystals of ice or water. You are so light that you don't fall. You can float. There are huge clouds, millions of tons of water, floating around like that. There is interaction, collision between these tiny crystals of ice. Some of the crystals may come together and form a bigger piece of ice, which, as it descends from a large drop of water, and it falls as rain. But maybe halfway down, the drops encounter a mass of hot air, so you evaporate and you come up again. You go down, you come up, down and up. Transmigration, reincarnation, and rebirth are always taking place in the cloud. A cloud does not need to become rain in order to have a new life. A cloud has a new life every moment. If you see a cloud floating in the sky and you think that it's always the same cloud, that's not true. A cloud is very active. A cloud can produce very powerful energy, such as lightning, which can cause destruction and move very quickly. There is a lot of cloud in us. We drink clouds every day when we drink water. Birth, death, and rebirth take place within us in the same way. Birth and death are taking place every moment of our daily lives. If someone asks you, what happens to me when I die? You may help that person by asking, what is happening to you in the here and now? If we know what happens to us in the here and now, we can answer the other questions very easily. Thank you so much for the likes, Holly. I appreciate it. Thank you. We are undergoing birth and death right now. Rebirth is taking place right now because mentally and physically you are reborn every instant. You are renewed in every instant in order to become a new person, a new being. If we know how to do it, our renewal is beautiful. We don't need to wait until we die in order to know what will happen to us. Looking deeply in the present moment, we see that the birth and death are taking place in us at every moment, both in our bodies and in our consciousness. In every moment of our daily lives, there is input and there is output. We breathe in, we take in food, and we have new ideas and new feelings. We breathe out, defecate, and we let go of ideas and feelings. So air and water, the whole cosmos, is going through us, renewing us, and we are returning other things to the cosmos. Suppose we speak of the death of a cloud. We look up in the sky and we don't see our beloved cloud anymore, and we cry, "Oh, my beloved cloud, you are no longer there. How can I survive without you?" We are thinking of the cloud as having passed from being into non-being, from existence into non-existence. But in fact, it is impossible for a cloud to die. To die means from something you suddenly become nothing. From being someone you suddenly become no one. But this is not the case of a cloud. The cloud cannot become nothing. It is possible for a cloud to become rain, snow, fog, or water vapor, but it is not possible for a cloud to become nothing. Your birth is not your beginning. It's only your continuation, because you were there before your birth, in other forms. For example, this page that you are reading exists first in many other forms. It didn't come from nothing, because from nothing you can't become something. Looking into the sheet of paper, we see the forest, the trees, the cloud, the rain, and the soil that nourish the trees. We can see the saw that cut the tree down, the lumberjack, and the paper mill. The sheet of paper has not come from nothing. Its manifestation as a sheet of paper is only a new manifestation, not really a birth. So the nature of this sheet of paper is the nature of no birth and no death. It is impossible for the sheet of paper to die. When you burn the sheet of paper and you observe what happens, you see that the sheet of paper is transformed into smoke, vapor, ash, and heat. The heat is energy which radiates. The smoke goes up into the air and becomes a cloud, and the ash falls down to the earth. The sheet of paper will continue. Like the clouds and like the sheet of paper, we continue, but in other forms. Suppose one part of the cloud is able to transform itself into rain, and it falls down and becomes part of the river. The rest of the cloud is up in the sky, and looking down, sees its continuation down below on the earth. It may think, have a good journey down there. I'll enjoy it up here, but you, who are a part of me, I hope you enjoy it down there. To be floating up here is nice, but to be flowing down there is also nice. As a human being, we can see that, as human beings, we can see that too. We can see ourselves in our children, our students, our friends, and our family. Their good luck is our good luck. Our happiness and suffering depend on them. We see ourselves everywhere because every moment we produce thoughts, speech, and actions that continue us in the world. Suffering depends on our perception. Much of our suffering depends on our perceptions. Whenever we don't get what we want, we see that as suffering. Of course, if we don't get what we want, we suffer. But the truth is that sometimes we do get what we want and we suffer more. Maybe it's not what we thought it was, or it changes something else in our lives for the worse. Sometimes after we get the thing we thought we wanted, we don't treasure it anymore. We want something else. The second arrow. Pain may be unavoidable. But whether you suffer or not is up to you. Suffering is optional. You choose to suffer or not to suffer. Birth, old age, and sickness are natural. It's possible not to suffer because of them when you have chosen to accept them as part of your life. You may choose not to suffer even if pain or sickness is there. How you see life and your particular situation depends on your way of looking. If we look deeply into our suffering, we can ask ourselves what we have done or are still doing to continue it. That doesn't mean that our suffering isn't real, just that we can lessen it instead of adding to it, and that we can even transform it. The Buddha said that we should not amplify our pain by exaggerating the situation. He used the image of someone who is hit by an arrow. A few minutes later, a second arrow strikes the exact same spot. After the second arrow strikes, not only is the pain doubled, but it can be 10 times more painful and intense. So when we have some pain, whether it is physical or mental, we can recognize it as suffering, but we don't need to exaggerate it. We can breathe with it. Breathing in, I know that I'm suffering, and breathing out, I smile at my suffering. We can very well make friends with our suffering as part of our efforts to transform it. If we recognize it and call it by its true name, then we can make peace with it and not suffer as much. When we see the pain in the world caused by all the suffering, we want to help the world to suffer less. But we begin with ourselves. We have to produce peace in ourselves and reduce the suffering in ourselves first, because we represent the world. Peace, love, and happiness begin with ourselves. The suffering we see out in the world is reflected in the suffering, fear, and anger inside. So when we take care of ourselves, we are taking the first step toward taking care of the world. No mud, no lotus. Imagine there was no suffering. This is like trying to imagine a lotus growing without the mud that nurtures it. You can't plant a lotus on marble. If there's no mud, there is no lotus. So if you want to have lotus flowers, you have to get some mud. If you look deeply into the nature of the lotus, you will see the mud in it. You don't need to look at the mud, you only need to look at the lotus and you will see the mud in it. You can't remove the mud from the lotus. If you tried to do so, the lotus would cease to be a lotus. Lotus flowers are made of non-lotus elements, including mud. Happiness is made of non-happiness elements, including suffering. Learning suffering. Many people think of heaven as a place of pure bliss where there are no sufferings. But the substance that makes happiness is understanding and love. In this world, we don't have enough understanding and love. We are thirsty for it. Sometimes we may feel something that no one understands us. Sometimes we may feel that no one understands us or loves us. If people loved and understood us, we wouldn't need to wait for heaven. We could be happy on earth right here, right now. My definition of heaven is a place where there is plenty of understanding and compassion. And that implies that there is also suffering. If there is no suffering, then it's not a very good place to learn. Many of us are afraid of ill-being, and our natural tendency is to try to run away from it. This has become a collective habit. There is an epidemic of medicating ourselves with alcohol, drugs, sedatives, and tranquilizers to escape our suffering. But the first noble truth suggests that we should stay and acknowledge our suffering. If we don't understand suffering, we can't understand happiness. Compassion and love are born from understanding. How can you love someone unless you're understanding their joy and pain? How can you love your child or your partner unless you understand their pain and challenges? If you want to love someone and make them happy, you can ask the question, do I understand my child enough? Do I understand my partner enough? You can even go to your partner, your friend, or your child and ask, darling, do you think I understand you enough? That person will tell you the answer. What would happen if you said to your partner, darling, because I love you and I want to make you happy, I want to understand you better. As a child, how did you suffer and what made you happy? Please tell me. Help me. I know very well that if I don't understand you, I won't be able to be the best partner for you. That is the language of love. Understanding requires understanding the difficulties, frustrations, and pain of the person you love. If you have already understood your own pain, it will be much easier to understand the pain of the other person. If we understand the nature of the ill-being inside us, it will be much easier to understand the nature of the ill-being around us. The Buddha advises us not to try to run away from our suffering, but to embrace it and to look deeply into it. With deep looking, understanding will arise, and compassion will be born. Understanding and compassion make happiness possible. Stopping and looking deeply. To begin to understand another person's suffering, we need to practice looking, listening, and observing our own suffering more deeply. The way to look deeply is to stop whatever else we're doing and truly concentrate on what we're observing. This has two parts. The first is stopping. The first is stopping, shamatha in Sanskrit, spelled Shamata, When you stop, your mind is very still and you see things deeply. The second part is Vipassana, Vipasshyana, Vipassana, looking deeply. When you practice stopping, your mind sees things more clearly. Stopping and being in touch with what is positive, you become fresh. You nourish yourself with the food of the practice. Mere recognition. When we stop, what are we stopping? We're stopping our minds. If you're walking mindfully or sitting mindfully, you continue to walk or sit, but you stop your mind and come back to the present moment with every step and with every breath. You stop focusing on your worries and anxieties and let them pass by. Of course, these worries and anxieties will come back anyway, but you can just say hello and goodbye to them again. You don't need to force them away or fight them. You don't need to think, oh, it's terrible, I think about all that too much. You just say hello and bye-bye, gently, just like that. If your thoughts are strong, you may need to say this many times. Slowly, your stopping will become more relaxed and effective. Cultivating compassion. We can learn a lot from suffering. Looking deeply into the nature of suffering will help us cultivate an understanding and compassion. This is how we can talk about the goodness of suffering. If we have suffered, that's good. Then we have the materials to learn and the possibility of happiness. We make use of the suffering. It's with suffering that we can fabricate understanding and love. Handling suffering is an art. If you know how to handle your pain, your sorrow, and your fears, you know how to create happiness. And the art of creating happiness and the art of handling suffering are the same. Calling suffering by its true name. According to the First Noble Truth, we need to call our suffering by its true name. Once we have named what is causing us to suffer, we are more able to look deeply into each other's suffering in order to find a way to transform it. If we don't understand the nature of ill-being, we will be blind to the path leading to well-being. Looking into suffering, we discover the truth about how ill-being is made and what kind of path can lead to its transformation into well-being. That was the third part of Good Citizens, Creating an Enlightened Society by our friend Thich, or formerly Thich Nhat Hanh. Tomorrow we will be back to continue reading this book, the fourth section, titled The Second Noble Truth. I'm looking forward to it. I will be sure to be back tomorrow to finish reading this. If not tomorrow, on the weekend. I'm not going to let it be a whole week between readings, so don't worry. So later this afternoon, you will find that third part uploaded to my YouTube, Sherrick Meditation. You can link through on my bio, or you can just pop over to your app and type it in your browser. All right, thank you guys for listening in with me today. I will see you again soon.